Okay, so in The Merchant of Venice, justice and mercy are very important themes which strongly relate to each other. Mainly in Act 4, Scene 1, which we all know as the trial scene. Okay, so our question we're going to focus this around is justice and mercy are important themes shown in the following passages, which we're going to look at in a second, and in Act 4, Scene 1, as a whole by various characters. From this portrayal, we can take important points. To what extent do we agree with this view? So these important passages are both by Portia in Act 4, Scene 1. Firstly, where she discusses the quality of mercy, and secondly, where she discusses justice, the justice that Charlotte will receive for not being merciful towards Antonio. So, beginning with that quality of mercy speech and Act 4, Scene 1 as a whole, we're going to look at how mercy is portrayed by various characters, mainly Charlotte and Portia. So firstly, Charlotte is asked why he must exact this revenge, why he feels so strongly about it. He says, "You ask me why I rather choose a weight of carrion flesh to receive 3,000 ducats. I will not answer that, but say it is my humour." So that's outside of that quality of mercy speech in line 39 to 43. Followed by "more than a lodged hate and a certain loathing I bear Antonio." So basically he's saying, well, I just hate him, that's why. So he believes he should not have to show mercy as the justice, by law, the justice he wants is rightfully his. And this is also like his one chance that he has to exact his revenge not only on Antonio but also all Christians and on behalf of Jewish people as well. Okay, so then Portia tries to convince him to show mercy, and she says, well, Charlotte, the quality of mercy is not strained. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. So Portia is trying to convince him that it's something that should be given out willingly. It shouldn't really be questioned. All human beings should just want to be merciful no matter what, which isn't really true when we think about it, and also that mercy will not only benefit Antonio, obviously, in saving his life, but it will benefit Shylock in supposedly making him a better person. But she knows this is probably not going to convince him, so she says, well, it is an attribute to God himself. "And though justice be thy plea, consider this, that in the course of justice we do not see salvation, we do pray for mercy." So basically Portia is saying, well, Shylock, it's gifted from God, it has a kind of divinity about it, why wouldn't you want to be merciful? And then she realises, well, this probably isn't going to work, he's probably not going to be merciful, so she puts in a plea at the end there by saying we do pray for mercy, which doesn't work anyway, as we know. Okay, so this diagram shows how justice and mercy are shown by various characters in a progress. So firstly, looking at that first circle, what we've just been over, we're talking about how mercy is shown in Act 4, Scene 1 and in the quality of mercy speech. Firstly, by Portia, who's being merciful herself and trying to sway Charlotte. She's trying to give him a chance to be merciful so she doesn't have to bring that justice down upon him. And then Shylock shows a lack of mercy in refusing to let Antonio off in Act 4, Scene 1. Okay, so now we go on to justice in that justice speech by Portia where she says the law hath yet another hold on you. So firstly, outside of that speech, Shylock goes on to say, "There is no power in the tongue of man to alter me. I stay here on my bond." So from this, we can see that Portia's efforts have failed. She has not convinced him to be merciful. Shylock is adamant he wants his revenge, no matter what. However, she then goes on to say, well, "Shed thou no blood, nor cut thou less or more but a pound of flesh. And tarry Jew, the law hath yet another hold on you." So, surprise to Shylock, Portia has found a loophole in the system where he mustn't spill a drop of Venetian blood. And therefore he cannot carry out his bond because in order to cut Antonio's flesh off, obviously he would have to believe. And I'm not going to read this out because it's quite long, but basically, to sum it up, Portia says if it be proved against an alien that he threatened the life of a citizen, half his goods should be taken by the state, the other half given to his daughter, and then, as it says here, the offender's life lies in mercy. So first of all, she's calling Shylock an alien, even though he's probably lived in Venice his entire life. This is kind of an unjust thing in itself because she's saying, well, because you're a Jew, you cannot be a citizen to begin with, and she's threatened the life of a citizen, he's threatened the life of a citizen who is Antonio. So his punishment is he must have his wealth and his religion taken from him, which can be seen as a lack of justice because is it really right to take someone's ways of life that they've always known? And therefore, a conversion to Christianity is considered a sort of justice in their eyes. because back then it was the only guaranteed entrance to heaven. Judaism wouldn't get you into heaven. So basically the court was seeing what they were doing as a favour to Shylock as well. Okay, so going back to the diagram here, justice in Act 4 Scene 1 and in that the law hath another hold on you speech is shown by Portia and the court in Venus. Now, so it's a questionable justice. Is it really right to take one's religion and shove another religion towards them and say, here you go, you must practice this from now on, when they have no idea what to do? And also Shylock, a different form of justice, which he wishes for is obviously to fulfill the bond and take Antonio's life. And really it depends on how strongly the reader feels for Shylock's cause or against it, but most of us really think that he's going too far. Okay, so quickly we're going to have a look at how justice and mercy are shown in other areas of the play, which you can look at later. Okay, so firstly in Act 1 Scene 3, when Antonio initially approaches Shylock regarding the bond, and Shylock says to him, well, I lend you thus much money, when you call me dog, you spit on me. So really he's got a good point as to why he should have to lend Antonio money when Antonio is not just to him in everyday life. And then also in Act 3, Scene 1, the hath not a Jew eye speech, the very famous speech, basically where Shylock says, well, if a Christian doesn't show mercy to a Jew, why does a Jew have to show mercy towards a Christian? So it's a very important place that you should check out later. Okay, so now we're going to see what we can take from reading this play, the important points, back into the question, what we can take from reading it. So firstly, Shylock is cast as an important character in the play. Now normally during these times, Jews were only portrayed as stereotypical two-dimensional characters, like in The Jew of Malta by Christopher Marlowe, where the main character has a hook nose, he has a bright red wig, and he's just an evil user, and that's all he is. And this was comical to the audience, they found this funny. So, therefore, Shylock is still portrayed somewhat as a stereotypical Jew because, you know, he's cruel and he's money obsessed. He wears the red wig, he lives in the ghetto, you know, all that. And this is kind of what Shakespeare needed his audience to see. He needed them to see this outer appearance, so they would still watch his play, they'd still think it's comical. But really, Shylock was meant to be a representation of all persecuted Jews beneath the appearance. And this is shown strongly through that hath not a Jew eye speech, which is in Act 3. And so, yeah, this is what he wanted his audience to see. He wanted them to look past this appearance and think, well, really, we've been treating Jews unjust for a long time now. And also, this is what we see. As an audience back then, we might not have seen this because now we live in a post-Holocaust world where we've seen the persecution of many Jews, so this is what we see as well. We see what Shakespeare wanted us to see. However, some have argued that Shakespeare carried on this anti-Semitic tradition and that he wanted to contrast the mercy of the Christians against the vengefulness of the nasty Jewish Shylock. So that's other people's opinion, but really I believe that Shakespeare intended to show his disgust towards Jewish intolerance, but at the same time he had that outer comical appearance so he didn't look too opinionated and loving towards Jews himself. And that's Justice and Mercy.